Kioptrix level 4. It's the series of Kioptrix, and over here we can perform an unmap. But first check the IP address, which is your 192.168.0.102. This is our target IP address today. And over here we can see we have a login page. But before attacking phase, we're gonna enumerate, or we can say information getting part. So side by side, when we are doing a pen testing part, we're gonna look for each and everything. For example, we have a username and password field over here. As a security analyst, we have. If I'm checking for SQL injection, I have to simply use some exception errors. And over here, I simply use a backward slash to check error handling. So username was and password was wrong. So if I remove this one, and if I simply use a single quote over here, I can see some error, SQL error from the backend of the server. So you can see warning, MySQL server supplied argument is not valid. You can see there's an error based, which is from a MySQL server. And over here, they have given var www checking login.php. Checking login.php. So this is important, first of all. And in the webalizer, I can see Apache server is running. The PHP version is 5.2.4. The operating system they are using is Ubuntu. And first of all, what does the checking login.php contains? We have an error from the var www.
It must be making the credentials, right?
It's related to the database credentials. So it's like a cross verification part from the user supplied data.
Yes.
So if you simply let's open this one. So there's checking login.php for logging system. Okay, they have given some credentials over here, and you can see my login.php. It's a normal page, and over here sometimes check login.php contains some username and passwords related to the database server. So over here you need to note each and everything that we have found that in the backend server there is a checking out login page on the var www which contains some credentials over there in the backend. And over here, we can see the error, a proper error of MySQL server. And if you look for the, you can say this nmap scan, we can see the port 22 is open there, which is an SSH, we can say. Port 80 was there. One 139.445, which is a Samba server. And we can see over here the Samba version 3.0.28. And we can see the name of the server is, you can see Kioptrix level 4. And they have given all the supported things which related to Samba. So over here we can.
Lot of information there coming in this.
There's a lot of information, right? So this is a Samba server. So very first thing what I'm gonna look over here is I'm gonna look for if any shared folders are there. Share folders which is sharing on the local server, and I'm gonna look for any kind of usernames over there, the username enumeration. So for the username, yes.
Two sides will be gate. One gate name part and
Sorry. So over here we can see 139.445, which is our Samba server. So what you're gonna look over here, we're gonna look for the details. For example, what are the share folders? So over here, I'm gonna use for checking the share folders. I'm gonna use SMB map. SMB map is a utility to check the number of share folders on the local server. So I'm gonna use -h for host and the IP address. If you can see the share folders. So over here we can see in the share folder they have print and IPC, which has no access.
Question here.
Yes.
This it's showing us the folder, but it doesn't have a network. Does it?
Yes.
Is it the case with every website?
This is Samba server, sir. In Samba,
Samba server.
yeah, in Samba server, you have to look for what are the files are sharing in the local network. So if any of the any of the client on the on that organization has opened their file sharing system, so it can be also be vulnerable. So they forget the username and password to be disallowed, or you can say they sometimes use default credentials like admin password. So if you are sharing files from a Samba server, you have to be a proper authenticate on that time. So through
Okay.
SMB map, I'm just looking for what are the files are available on that network, and I can
We
see
can
this.
we can enumerate them if for future step.
Yes, exactly.
But let's say you looked into the Samba server, but as a layman, let's say when I do it, should I if I start looking, let's say Nmap, so definitely I will do. What about Nikto and brute forcing?
Nikto and brute forcing will identify the misconfiguration services and your hidden directories on the web server, and these are the protocols on the server side. The Nikto will work on the web server part, and that's why you are using Nmap for the server scanning part.
Okay, so if I made that kind of an approach, that won't be considered wrong. It's just that it's gonna might take a bit longer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Each and every scenario over here has a different kinds of tools and techniques that can be followed.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if you see this one, you can see each and everything that there is a pin directory and IPC which contains the sample.
Okay.
We don't have the access over there. Hmm? But over there, we can try lots of other things. For example, you can use your NSC scripts. For example, locate SMB dot one. Sorry. Okay, these vulnerabilities are regarding to SMB servers, but we're gonna use enum. Okay, there are lots of enums. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use cd user share unmap scripts.
Share spelling wrong.
Mm, hmm, sorry. So over here we can see all the files one by one. So what we're gonna do? Look this one, SMB enum. Domain name animation, group animation, process animation, services animation, session and shares, and user animations also. So I'm gonna use the user animation part of it. Let's do cat, and this is a Lua script of the nmap. So you can see all the things one by one, but let's see the definition. Attempt to enumerate the usernames on the remote Windows system, which has much information as possible through the different techniques, both of MSRPC on the port 444 and 139. The goal of this script is to discover all the user accounts that exist on the remote server system. This can be helpful for administrator by seeing who can log in on the system. So you can see over here, they are using all the things, and over here you can see the command. So nmap script assembly animation users.nse. So I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to check.
Yes. Inside the script also, they have mentioned it how to use it.
Yes,
Okay, that's good.
you can see the -p on the port 4445. It's for a specific attack on the specific port number. So let's try if it works. Okay, so it over here. Let's try this one, I guess. One 192.168.0.102. Ah, I guess we have some errors from the server side. So some of the tools are not working. So what we can do, there's one tool that we can use, and that is effectively, and that is your enum for Linux. So we're going to use enum for Linux to enumerate all the services on the server side. So for example, which kind of services we're going to look? We're going to look for -u, that is your user list, -m from machine list, share available on the server side, and I guess that we don't have the manual part, and -feed for the password policy information also. -g for the group members, because we should know which groups are available on the server side. -g, which is your applies for you and us, -u if you know the username, and -p for the password. And if you try to look, you can use you can try assembly brute force attack over here if you have the number of dictionaries. For example, we're gonna try capital A, -a. Why? Because if I'm gonna use -u, it will take a lot of time. So we can simply use -a. It will do all the simple programs just like this one. And the main thing is like to check this. You need to understand the architecture of the Linux. So this one is important. So I'm gonna use enum for Linux -a and the IP address of the server. So you can see one by one all the things over here.
It's checking the directories. What are they?
It's checking all the things one by one. It's going to check all the things one by one. For example, in the enumeration part, enumeration can be performed in various things. Samba enumeration, SMTP enumeration, POP3 enumeration. There are lots of enumeration that we can use. Over here, you can see the NBT stat. The NBT stats will show you all the number of workers. The workstation is running or not. Give me some 2 minutes. Yeah, so where we were? Yes. So over here you can see the number of workstations. So NBT stat is basically used to check the number of stations which are running over there. Like the Kioptrix workstation is running, the messenger service is running, the file sharing server was running, that's why the 139 was open. The master browser, you can see all the things are running over there. And these are important. What is the use of NBT stat? NBT stat is also useful to check if the server is, you can say, is on that domain. It is registered to that domain or not. You can
Okay.
see each and every workstation. It's all about the workstation or the work group you can talk. So, for example, if you go down, you can see users on the server, as we were talking about. So, there was no.
So if we got the user, at least we know that from username and password, we at least get one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you know the usernames, you can try.
What's the password?
Yeah. You can see they are using like nobody. This is a default user. If you compare these users with your own local users with the see this one, nobody as yeah, nobody is a default user.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, you can
Yeah,
see Robert, Root,
this is the
John, and
default one. These are
Ronan.
the new ones,
These
specifically.
are the names.
Yeah.
Robert, Root, John, and Notified. So what you can try over here, and you can see the buffer memory according to that. The
What is
offset.
what will the buffer memory will help? Let's say just in case, does it help in anything?
It basically has a class over there. It has a basically RID. RID stands for relative identification, and each and every user over there has a unique identification number, just like your root. If you use ID over here, the RID you can see is root 0.
User ID and group ID and then
And
groups. Okay.
it's all about buffer memory.
Okay.
Compare this one. If you have the usernames, there are various types. Share enumerations. As we have mentioned, print and IPC has no access. Password policy information. And over here, if you see, these are the RIDs. RIDs stand for 500 to 10, 10, 50. And if you go a little bit down, you can see Kioptrix root user, which is a local user. This has an RID of 1000. See, there are some you can say work groups, administrator, local group, West, Power. These are the work groups, and they have the RID. Through the RID, they specify the work groups, so they can simply push any of the users or add or remove with the help of RID, identification numbers. And over here, you can see these are the users which has a specific RID. Like 1000 has a Lone Ferret, 1001 which is John, and 1002 which is your Robert. Each and every user has an RID to specify their roles. The 1001, the most important, the 1001 is also known as pseudo users.
Okay. Okay. Thousands are called Sudo users. Okay.
Pseudo users. So I think you have must read about the Payatu and the Gottmik, which I told you.
Actually, I did read about it, but the thing is, unless and until I keep on utilizing those enumerations,
Mm-hmm. No, but you have to read those 6 attacks. How the 6 attacks
implementing them,
work.
the more I implement, the more I remember.
Huh.
That is was what was happening because I tend to forget again and again that okay, this enumeration was there, this they used this one, okay, they
Mhm.
had used this one, but if I don't use them, then I kind of forget because there are too many enumerations. That's
Yes,
it.
exactly. So there are lots of things. For example, we have some usernames. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try to bypass. We're gonna copy this one and we're gonna try to bypass the login form. Hmm?
Okay.
So for this case, we're gonna try that we know that there is an SQL error. Hmm?
Okay.
There's an SQL error. So what are you gonna do? We're gonna try to bypass the if you know the username, sometimes we simply bypass the password field. Over here, I'm gonna use a single a universal key, which is your SQL authentication. So we're gonna use some key. So over here, we're gonna use single quote for balance the query, or for condition 1 is equal to 1 and minus minus space. So over here, the minus minus space over here is to comment out the right hand side query. Think about that you have a username, login name, and a password. So in the back end, there would be a SQL server. So there would be a SQL syntax. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy this one, and we're gonna try to bypass the password field. This is also a technique for bypassing any of the parameter value. Example, if you have the username, you can bypass the password one. So
It's a
if you
normal
try this,
SQL injection.
yes, user notified went wrong with the member. Let's try John. Something went wrong, and we can see that we have logged in on the username John over here. So I'm going to try explanation over here. Okay, there is no error over here. Let's try single quote. Let's try, I'm going to use a pop-up. Let's try a simple thing.
Exercise pop-up you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, it's working. Let's try document.cookie parameter, if you can find some cookies. So we have some session IDs. But that doesn't know which user is it. Okay, let's see if we can simply jump to the John user or not. User John. Okay, let's try Robert. Let's write session writing. Log out. Okay. Let's try John again one more time. Now this time we can see user John with the password my name is John. Let's copy this one. And over here, we're going to try to set over here. So I'm going to try one more vulnerability over here. I'm going to try session management, which is, you can say, if I have a username and I have the John, so I'm going to write someone else's session. So I'm going to write Robert. So when I write Robert, no, it's not working. So I was basically trying to simply jump to the Robert user, but in this scenario, it doesn't work. Let's try Robert over here. Let's try this one. And we have some hashes over here on the user Robert. So we have John, my name is John over here, and we have Robert with the hash encryptions. So let's try to read this hash first of all. So I'm going to copy this one, and let's see. Let's use hash -identifier. No hash, but I will say this is a base 64 encryption standard. So we're gonna check for base 64 decode. Let's use online decoder. So we have some junk values over here. There's nothing much. But we have one of the user with the password, that is my name is John over here. So over here, this technique over here, you have to assume each and everything. You have to simply understand what are the flow in the back end of the server. So for that, you can see one by one all the things over there. And the most important part is to check. So if we have the usernames, so what we can do, as per the nmap scan, an attacker can try to gain access on the server side. Well, and I can see there is an SSH port is running in the backend, which is showing port 22, and it's an RSA encryption standard. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna write SSH John @ the icons. Yes, please. So now it's asking for the password. So I'm going to use this. My name is John. And we are in. But the most important part, Ligot shell is a place to you to don't screw up. Okay, normal thing. Welcome Ligot employer. Thank you so much. So we have type $mark to help to get the list of allowed commands. Okay, we have some restrictions on the server side. We have some restriction, and we can see allowed commands over here. We have to do $mark. So as per the allowed command on the screen, I can see I can run cd, I can run echo, I can run exit, help, lpath, and ls. So over here we have some limited commands on the server side. So if I run root, you have 0 warning before to kick it out. Okay, that's right. cd root, and they kick me out from there. So some of the users has default credentials or default permission on the server side. So in this scenario, what we're gonna do? We're gonna try to check one by one all the things. So export term color environment. Okay, it did not work. Not an issue because we don't have the clear permission over here. Yeah, we have clear permission. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna use our Python. We're gonna use some got milk commands. So over here, got milk. And py2. So let's come to the shell command. If the commands are limited, now it's we are gonna talk. If the commands are limited, you can break the jail shell. So they have given Python command that you can use, or you can use echo command, echo os system bin bash, because they're gonna call bin bash, which is a TTY over there. So as you can see that we have echo command that was available over there. So I'm gonna copy this one, and I'm gonna paste it over here. So now we have a TTY.
Can you move the screen a bit up? This one.
This one.
Terminal. Actually, I'm unable to see at the bottom.
Sorry.
I'm saying, can you move this terminal slightly up? या थोड़ा ऊपर कर लोगे इसको. Actually नीचे से ना command नहीं दिख रही.
Oh, okay. Wait.
थोड़ा सा ऊपर.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Is it available now?
Yeah. It's okay. Thank you.
So I was basically using the echo. From the echo command, I'm gonna execute the OS command, operating system commands, and I'm gonna execute bin bash, a TTY over there. So now we can run term xterm. Okay, now that's working all fine. So over here, what we're gonna do? We're gonna try to check, and today we're gonna introduce you a new attack which is called in py2. And over here we're gonna do today's module. That would be our exploiting services which is running as root.
There is one question before we head forward. These all py2 exploitations, can we run them on like all these? Can I try them on all the machine which I try to break, like one by one, to see like which one works, and mostly all of them works, or it depends upon the kind of a machine which I have?
Each and every machine over there has a different one. So I'm just teaching you the one we have it doing in the py2. We're gonna do all the 6 types of attacks, but there is a various method. You have to do post exploitation part, and for that case we have some tools. I'm going to show you some automation tools how we can do post exploitation part also.
Okay.
But right now I'm just showing you what kind of vulnerabilities can be present on the server side.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, sir, that exploiting services which is running as root, which has a root permission. The famous eternal blue, they are saying the Samba exploited SMB services which generally run as root. So in this scenario, the most important part is to check each and everything. With just one exploit, an attacker can get a remote code execution on the local listen as well. It is very heavily to use to spread ransomware across the globe which is deadly combination. You should always check if the web server or a mail server or a database server are running as root or not. Many times, web admin run these services as root and forget about the security issue it might cause. There would be services which is running locally are not exposed publicly, which can be exploited. For example, you can use netstat, ANTUP. It will shows all you the ports which are running and listening mode. For example, netstat, ANTUP, and over here you can see in the back end there is a SQL server is running. 3306, which is your MySQL server. 139, which is Samba, 80, 22, 445. You can see one by one. And the main objective you can see exploiting a vulnerable version of SQL is running as root to get access. You can use mysystem.ddf library exploit. Lets you execute arbitrary command from the MySQL strings. If MySQL is running with root privileges, the command will be executed. Give me 2 minutes. Yes. So over here, the application which is running as root, we can see this one. PS, AUX, and grep root. It will check all the application which is running as root. And over here, we can see the PS, AUX process which is running over there. If you write the PS, AUX, you will see all the processes which is on the backend side. So, but most of attacker, they try to grab the application which is running as root. So over here, if you see that in the back end, that we know that the MySQL was running and the application is running as root also. And as per the data, we have an error that our bad www, there is a checking.login.php file. So let's check if we can grab that check.login.php or not. So what we're gonna do, ls-all cd, it was on where www, and we can see there is this file of checking.login.php. So I'm going to use cat command, and over here we can see that this is a configuration file of your MySQL server, and the username is root, and the password is blank over there. So over here, the application was running as root services and without any server. So what we're gonna do?
So if you can do su root, we'll just directly go there.
You can try this one. Su root. No. Authentication failure.
Okay.
What we're gonna do? This is the username and password of your MySQL server local database. So for that thing, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use MySQL -u to connect with that database. So I'm going to use root -p. So now he's asking me the password. So the password was blank. Enter. So over here we are on the MySQL server. So what we're going to do, show databases, I guess. So we have member list, we have MySQL, and we have information schema, which is the architecture. And we have members, we have MySQL. So if, for example, you can see in the Payatu, they have given, if you want to exploit the server, you have to use the Raptor, which is a binary file over here. If you can create anything, you can simply gain any access of the server side. For example, what we're going to do over here, we're going to check the MySQL functions. So use MySQL. Yes. Show tables. We have column privileges, we have DB, we have categories, procedures, privilege, users. But over here, I'm going to select the function command of the MySQL, because in the function command, we can simply control the server side. So I'm going to use select star from function. And over here, I can see lib, MySQL diff, and system info, and system execution. System execution has given over there, and you can use myudif also. Myudif is just like a shared object. You will create a shared object on the server side to gain a privilege part. But over here, I'm going to use the system execution. I'm going to give some commands through the SQL server, and we can try lots of things over here. For example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give some privileges to user John and any of the user. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check for all the things one by one. So for that reason, I'm going to use select system execution. And over here, I'm going to use a single quote. And I'm going to use user mode to change the user permission. A to assign, capital G for group admin. In the group admin, I'm going to use add John, the username which we get, and the semicolon.
Can you move the screen up again slightly more?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can see that I use the select statement, and I'm going to use system execution part. And through that system execution, I'm going to change the permission of user. So I'm going to use user mode to assign a group which is admin and the user John. So in this scenario, you have to be familiar with the MySQL, or you can simply check the Google system underscore execution MySQL privilege escalation. Okay, this is system execution, and what they have given username root without the password. Okay, that's cool. MySQL root. Okay. System execution was not found. Okay, what they gave system execution, I think G on the group. There's different kinds of things that you can perform, and we are not going to see the walkthrough. Root system root, user defined function. There are lots of penetration testing hacking sticks that you can use. You can see Hacktrix. This is a very good website that you can learn. Brute forcing, converting the binary code. Okay. MySQL arbitrary read and clients. Okay. Load data. Through the MySQL, you can do lots of things. This is also one of the technique. Privilege escalation part from your MySQL server. You have to create MySQL, then create a table, and you can simply import the SU file, the shared object. You can put any of the malicious files on the server side, and that malicious file will run as super user. For example, that's why I'm gonna run this one, and when I came out, when I do sudo -l with the username John, I can see I have all the permission now. That means if I do sudo su, I am root. So this technique is also one of the important part. You have to check all the application services which is running as root or not. There are various cases that we can perform. And one by one, this is all about the techniques that we can cover in the upcoming sessions also. There are many things.